Oh yeah. Good
Yeah.
morning,
Good
Bill.
morning, Bill. Yeah, sorry. I
Leaking
didn't
on in.
realize we were in the buffering to launch time, and I'm just over
Yeah,
here chatting away.
that's true. That's true. Well,
Man, I gotta
how'd you
say,
get?
buddy, yesterday was not awesome. Was not
No.
awesome. You weren't here. I wung it badly, I would say. So I'm glad you're back. I
Yeah.
hope everybody in the family is okay. Yeah, man, missed you yesterday.
Same man. Thanks. I missed you when
hmm
you were out too as well. I had the same sort of like no pun intended there. Like
I forget how much I like can get past little spots
uh,
because I can throw to you and you can throw to me and stuff like
yep,
that. Like it's a different ball game when
100%.
it's just one of us.
Yeah,
Good
tag
morning,
team
Mike.
for sure. What's up, man? What's up? So yeah, I was out yesterday. Had some health challenges with my family, so I was just out helping out. So away, and then I took some time to myself as well. So I got basically some time just to think and do some cool stuff around my own organization, and so it ended up being like a bonus, if you can say that, around about you know health
Hey,
stuff going on.
Brian.
I got
Sorry.
my own. So what's up? What's up? Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Mike Tal. That is true, man. Community helps, right? Even if it is just in the form of one wingman. It's always nice to have a little bit of support.
I was kidding. I was just gonna see how long you would go quiet.
Man, I'm a salesperson. We practice it just like letting things hang, right?
No, I
Like
know. It's so
big
fun.
old pregnant pauses. Jake, is that really a big deal? Like
Yeah,
it feels like an eternity, but
it
it's
does. Yep, I
it
love it.
really changes conversations. Like there was someone on Twitter the other day, and they were talking about how they don't like the writing style on LinkedIn, like the couple of sentences and then a break, the more
hmm
scannable style of
hmm
reading. And I was like, I used to hate it. It used to really drive me nuts. And then I saw an article, a post actually on LinkedIn about this writing style, and the guy was just talking about how like writing is like art in a sense. If writing is like art, you're really allowed to do whatever you want that you could with it, right? And in this post, he did some really cool things with like line breaks and different like syncopation and stuff. And like I was like, wow, like that is rad. Like I've never thought about it that way. And
hmm
it made writing content like fun, right? Because it's like as opposed to putting this into like a 5 sentence paragraph that I would if I was writing a book or a blog post, like, can I get the same message across in a cool way that's kind of
hmm
punchy and stuff like that? It made it art. And now when excuse me, like thinking about pausing and thinking about doing different things, it's that same kind of element, of can you pull refocus? Can you take a second, get uncomfortable, and there's lots of little bitty things around that, like using someone's name, using a big pause, different things like that. And like that's what makes it an art form, in my opinion.
John, I also think it's a lot like music in that
Yeah.
you can create stanzas and full hooks and stuff like that.
hmm
Uh, and I actually read an article like you did. Did something similar. He wrote something three different ways, and it
hmm
read three completely different ways in my mind when I read it.
Yep.
Exact same words, which is really cool, right? So,
Yeah.
um, and there was something else I was going to say about the pauses and the I just watched the Norm Macdonald special last night,
Oh
the one
man.
on Netflix, and you know that one of the comments that they made is the word choice and the enunciation of the words made him who he was. Like fifty
Yep.
percent of who he was how he delivered. You know, and so
Yep.
that made me think of that as well. Because if Norm just talked like everybody else, he wouldn't been as funny. You know.
Well, and you can go back to his time on like Weekend Update and stuff where he's the anchor, and you can
Mhm.
pull so many examples of where he just drops a line and then just waits on everybody to get it.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what he was known for. Was
Yeah.
like come
Yeah.
on, come with me. I'll
Yeah.
wait. I'll
Yep.
wait. Yep,
Oh,
there
he
it
didn't care.
is.
He didn't
Yeah,
care at
didn't
all.
care at all, which is very interesting. Give me a 14-second pause and I will tell you if you made it. Brian, I love that as an exercise. I actually make people practice pausing on Sales Practice Lab. And it feels like an eternity. Like I remember the first time my sales coach was like, okay, cool. Just ask a question and wait 30 seconds. And I was like, okay. And he's like, don't look at your watch. Oh, what? And like you would have, I thought I grew a beard in that 30 seconds of just time of just like us looking at each other, waiting for the next kind of question to go through. Pausing is hard. It's very, very difficult. But the other side of it is like, if you're not confident, you cannot do it.
No.
Like they fundamentally go hand in hand in conversation. Like so much so, that, everyone is like trying to fake it till you make it. That's how you do it. Like go practice pauses, go practice like getting hit with something and being like, whoa, interesting. How did you decide that that was the right way to do that? It's impactful. Like it changes the entire conversation.
Yeah, I think it's harder for me on the asking side when you're trying to get some information and they pause and don't say anything. I think it's hard for you to stay paused and let them take their silence, right?
Yeah.
And because what you want to do is like, oh, well, maybe they didn't answer the question right. Maybe they're confused. Maybe they need some more context, or I'm impatient. I'm going to ask it again a different way, or whatever. So I have found it's hard as the question asker to leave silence until they have to come up with something.
Man, one of the best things, my friend Jason Whitlock, who is a financial advisor and someone I've done a lot of coaching and training with, he really changed the game for me about like pausing and stuff because he was in town. We were having a chat, and just kind of catching up on stuff. And he was talking about silence and everything. And I come from call centers, right? And in call centers, you don't want dead air, right? Like, and you're supposed to do things of like, give me just a moment while my computer boots up, and all this, and how's your day going? While you're kind of keeping them all there and everything. So that's where I come from, right? And yeah. So Jason Whitlock one time he goes, man, if you're asking questions at a depth that other people don't, it should take them a minute to come up with the answer. And I was like, whoa. And he goes, it's an indication that you're asking really good original questions of this person, not anything else. And so then of course I'm like, oh, well now I have to just like go try this thing, right? Because like if you show me a path that leads to improvement and I can see that path, get out of the way. Like I'm going to go try it. I'm going to go rep it out. I'm going to go crash and burn with it. I'll go burn opportunities, like trying techniques and stuff like this. So that way other people don't have to. But that really changed it because I would do these things. Can we talk about budget? Because it's okay if you don't have one.
Yeah.
And it's like totally ruins the whole moment. Right. And as a C personality, right, I have a high need to be technically correct. Okay. So in that moment, if we're having a normal conversation and the pattern is pop, 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 and then I ask a question that causes like a big pause, my tendency is to feel like, oh, they don't get the question. I need to reword this, And so my nature is to go in there and say it again slightly different in the hopes that they hear it differently and can answer it off the cuff, when really I should be happy with the fact that I'm asking deep questions and they want to answer them.
Yes. And my I-ness makes me want to fill the time because it might feel awkward for them.
Yep.
Or I may have asked something that was offensive, and so I need to retract. So I want to be liked as an I. But I mean, there is something to D being a great starting piece of clay as a salesperson, because they'll just go right at it. Right? They'll just go right at it. It's there.
I mean, okay.
You still have to do a lot. You still just can't show up as a D and be good.
For sure, right? Yeah, because that's
clay. I can see why people say that.
Well, I mean, so here's the rub, right? They have their own issues, okay? But the issues that they bring to the table naturally as a D are moving too fast, shutting stuff down, going scorched earth on things, right? And like early stage salespeople, like that's okay. Like you don't have a brand yet, you don't have anything going on. You need to go till the field, right? You need to go that mile wide, inch deep, right? And so that easy goal attainment, right? These are so goal focused, right? It's really easy to get them wound up and really focused on goals, and they move in that direction the whole time. So goal alignment is easy. And so that's why people are often like looking for these kinds of salespeople. You want just a little bit of I, so that way they're not like the worst D personality type on the planet, and people actually want to have meetings with him. But like,
Right.
that's what everyone is looking for in the form of a salesperson: a little bit of D, a little bit of I, some mix of the two. But the thing to remember is that they have their own issues, right? Like, D's go scorched earth. They will ruin your relationships if they don't have the right training and the right knowledge and things like
Yep.
that. And so it's just the opposite end of the table. An S is going to have, and an I is probably also going to have a pipeline filled with way too much hope and way too many relationships that aren't going to lead to transactions and revenue and stuff. And so,
Yep.
it's just about knowing that the other, it's not that they come out of the box great. It's that they come out of the box with different issues that need to be solved and trained around, is really
Yep.
what it comes down to.
Yep.
You just don't have to deal with the hard part because they're so wound up around goal attainment. Hey, call this list. All right, boom, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They'll do it.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a really good Brian nugget there.
Which one? This right here?
Yeah. That is true. That's a nugget and a half right there.
And
Not a
balance.
not a Myers-Briggs fan either. Brian, like, I like it for internal knowledge and self-development. I don't use it or like it in the form of like trying to type someone else and move the conversation meaningfully in a direction that they want to hear, right? So we use DISC for that because it's only 4 quadrants. It's a little bit easier to group people and kind of, it's just easier to hold than 4 different variables. And what do those different variables mean? So I like all assessments for self. I only like DISC for trying to understand the other person in the conversation and have a conversation that they want to have. So, but yeah,
and particularly for quickly, it's good for a very quick read.
Absolutely. But Brian hits it out of the park there, right? Like, this is the hard thing about sales, about selling. You've had the same conversation hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, right? Or very similar conversations. And this person just doesn't know how many times you've had the conversation. So when they're like, okay, well, how does this impact this? Well, Mr. Prospect, and like, you're too clean, you're too polished.
Yeah.
It creates friction. It creates a barrier between you and them, only because they have forgotten that exactly how many times you've had this conversation.
Yeah, there's a thing to being too polished, right?
Yes, absolutely.
When you seem too polished, you seem like, I think it lowers trust. And it's hard to explain the specifics of that, right? Because everyone, when they see it, knows it. They're like, oh gosh, wow, that's used car salesman right there. Or that's, that's a script. Can you give me the real answer? Like, not me. So I think there is especially for good salespeople, know how to balance it in a way with a tonality that sounds like it's the first time they answered it. Not everyone knows how to do that. But even if you're not super polished, you can still pause, like Ryan said, and go, well, based on the experience I've had, I'd say da 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 da. So yeah, that's a really great point, Brian.
Yeah. We put a video on TikTok last week or the week before, and it was talking about answering questions with questions, keeping the conversation moving, not getting stalled out. And I say, well, okay, good question, right? And this one person was like, can we just stop saying good question?
Yeah.
And I was like, the important thing to remember, right, is that we're tired of the bad usage of that word, right? When it's given in that kind of dead tone, like sometimes when you go to Chick-fil-A and they say my pleasure, and they don't mean it, but they were told to say it. Like, it's the same kind of like situation. So if you were just saying good question, good question, good question, good question, of course it's going to sound terrible. But the technique there that you're doing is as I learned it, is called nurturing, right? And so you're giving them just like a little bitty stroke, right? Hey, great question. Like, I get asked that all the time. Which just kind of like gives them a little kind of pat on the head and like, hey, you're supposed to ask these questions. Good job. And then they want to do more of it because they're not getting hit with, okay, well, how much does it cost? Depends. What do you need? Like, that feels confrontational and people don't want to bump up against that wall. But when you can say, how much does it cost? Great question. I don't really know exactly the scope that we're talking about yet, or the depth, or if this is for you or for your team. So I don't really know that we could talk about that part yet. Can I ask you a couple of additional questions, right? If you don't put that little stroke in there, good question, I'm glad you asked, or something like that, it just feels to them like you're avoiding the entire question, which is just going to add friction to the whole conversation, which is just not where you want to be.
So I'm going to push back on that a little bit, because I don't like it even when people have like a great tone about it, if they use it too much in a call. Even if
Agreed.
It's a Great
Agreed.
question. I'm like,
Yes,
bro, you
agreed.
said that 6 times now. Can we use something else?
Agreed. Yeah. It
Yeah.
can't be
Are you
the only nurture you have in the nurture box, right? Like nurturing can be, like what Jake just did in that little bitty kind of segment of a role play. Like, is one of my favorite nurtures, right? Or whoa, interesting.
Mhm.
Anything to acknowledge the fact that they like opened up and shared something with you. It doesn't have to be good question. I'm glad you asked me that. Well, and then big change
Yeah.
shown and stuff like that. So, yeah, like it can't be the only thing that you do
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I
Right.
think ideally, if you are letting them know that this is a conversation that you're
Yes.
interested in and that you're listening to and that you
Mhm.
heard them, then that's how that space gets filled
Agreed.
instead of anything scripted. So,
Yeah.
but we all
Like
have crutch words too, though.
we
So
all
every
like
all
and
of us.
write. If anyone wants to play a fun drinking game while they're watching the show at 7:30 in the morning, just take a shot every time you hear me say like or write. These are words that I use to get around my stutter, and now they've become habitual, and so
Yep.
now they show up way more than I would like them to. It is something I'm constantly working on. It is difficult to lean out of the crutches that you've been using for a very long time. So
All right.
I'm not making the progress I would like to be making in that direction.
Yes.
For Brian, so I was late to the Ziegler party. Honestly, my parents read Ziegler when I was a kid, and being a kid, I was like, oh, this is like woo woo, like self
Yeah.
help BS kind of thing, because they were doing it to like stop smoking, if I remember correctly. And so then I had a big Ziegler moment when I was like starting this business and was at a sales conference, and they put the Zig Ziglar quote up on the screen, and like in that moment was when my like why changed, right? Because
Mm.
like I was just trying to be individual consultant, super small. I don't really care about anybody else. I just want to make my money and be gone. And then you can
I
have
know the quote. I
everything
know
you
the quote's
want.
coming. I know
Yeah,
the quote's coming.
you can have everything you want if you help enough other people get what they want. And I'm sitting at this table with the three people that I call the trifecta: my business partner, Jeff, my sales coach Scott, and the first guy to give me a B2B role, Al. And just like it would be selfish for me to not try to push this knowledge forward and try to give this to other people. And like it happened because of that quote being up on the screen. So I need to go spend some time in Ziegler's books and things like that. Just haven't done so yet.
Yep. Yep, for sure. Mike, what do you mean? I don't know if I know. Do you know Hopkins? Old school?
I don't know Hopkins at all. I've never heard of that name.
Ziegler has a group that does sales training, but I've never done anything with it, or I actually really haven't seen any of the material, so I'm not sure if maybe that's who he's aligned with.
So my understanding is that Sandler now owns Ziegler.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think so.
I did not know that.
Gabe says no way. I'd be so drunk watching the show. Yes, you would. You would be hammered. I would be contributing to your liquor or to your liver failure, which would be not awesome.
Well, of course, if I knew we were playing, I might tee that up a few more times. So.
Oh yeah, of course.
And then I can tell you mine, although you might already know a couple of mine. So maybe that would be a fun game. We should see if we can figure out what our guests' like crutch words are, not to humiliate them on there, but then the next week we could say, all right, who caught the guests?
It's awareness, right? Because you know, awareness is like a very funny thing, right? Because like if I how do I say this the right way? Right? If you just put your hand up and you're like, think about your hand. Okay, great. Now think about your fingertips. Now think about your knuckles. Now think about like what that quality feels like when you roll it up into like a fist and everything. And like because I asked you to think about it, you can now put awareness into that thing. Well, martial artists are training so that way they always have that kind of awareness in their hands and in their limbs and stuff like that. And so it's like you can choose to put it anywhere, but if you're not choosing to put it anywhere, it's probably not the place that you need it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say right because I caught myself about to be like, right? I would do the drinking game of Jake and John do it as well. Brian, that might be something we do. I'm going to need a very watered down mulled wine or something like this to make it through that session. I
Just
believe.
to make it through the episode.
Yep. Yeah. So, Brian, which Zig book do you recommend? If you're going to recommend one,
good question.
Where's a good jumping off point?
Yeah, I've read so much of Zig stuff and it's been so long that I could not reference specifics anymore because I do agree. I think most people know Zig Ziglar as internal motivation. Like he's just a guy that helps you move things around so that you're going in a direction that's helpful in your head.
Mhm.
And so if that's
Old
always the
smoky
issue I've had with
moonshine?
Zig. What's that?
He said old smoky moonshine.
Oh, wow. That'd be sweet.
Yeah. I
Alex
would
does
be hammered if we were drinking moonshine on the show.
oh gosh, that would take, yeah.
Is
Especially
that
when
Alex Schlinsky?
okay.
Mike? Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, Brian.
Cool.
I hope the due
Thanks,
diligence is
Brian.
going well, my friend.
Yeah, it sounds like you're moving along, which is on a situation like that, as long as it's continuing to move, that's great.
Yeah,
Means
absolutely.
nothing's killed it yet.
Interesting. A live version of the cold call drinking game. I don't know. Part of me wants to do some cold calling on like live, to talk about mindset behind it and things like that. But I don't know. I feel like there's other better places to show the skill than in battling to get meetings and the work that most people don't really want to do anyway. Like most people would rather send a bunch of emails or hire someone to send a bunch of emails to get meetings than to cold call to get meetings, which is okay. Good job, Brian. October
Nice.
1st. That's rad,
Nice.
man. I hope we get some more details about this thing when you're wrapped up with it. Maybe you should come on the show. That could be rad.
Yeah.
We should talk about
Post
that.
close, we could talk about that. It'd be great. When all the NDAs are out of the way.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, Gabe is going to have us on his show, and we'll drink whenever I say like or right. That's going to be
yeah. Duh.
fantastic.
We should totally do that. Okay.
It's the show that it's not hard. It's all about mindset. I mean, yes, right, for sure. It is all about mindset. Read all. That's wow. That's a lot of time in a data room, Brian. That's rad. It is all about mindset. The only difference, and this goes back to the thing that I was talking about weeks ago with the guy who sent me the message and who wanted to know what tech we were using for this, but was also the guy who was saying, you don't have to send sleazy DMs. It's like it's only sleazy if you feel sleazy about it, is really what it is. And you're probably using language that makes you feel sleazy. So find language that doesn't make you feel sleazy. Be okay with the additional or lesser volume that you will do because of your comfort level. Because the most direct thing is the thing that's going to have the best outcome. Hey, I think I can help you. Do you want to have a conversation about it or not? No. Great. I think I can help you. Like a version of that is going to be the easiest thing to rep out, to get really good at, to do consistently, and to have consistent outcomes. But our mindset gets in the way. Like this thing between our ears. Oh my God, they might tell me no. Great. Most people are going to tell you no. And
yeah, what's interesting is I don't mind sending. Like there was drink educational emails around something that's relevant to me as a cold reach out. I never even mind getting those. Is that when I see them, I might go, no, not interested. But there's no friction for me for those types of DMs. And I don't even mind sending them if I know they're relevant. Going, hey, I saw you did this. I saw you working on this. We wrote this thing. Thought it might help you out. Mind if I follow up and see what you think of our information? Something like that. Yeah. I think when it heads outside of being either educational or requested, that's when I start getting uncomfortable. Right?
Because as the sender or as the receiver?
Probably both, but probably more the receiver. I don't like getting cold outreach that says, "Hey, you need to work with us. Here's why. Ready, go."
Because you don't like your. Is it okay? Hold on. I'm trying not to load this question. Is it?
The question would be why.
Yes, why? Yeah, thank you very much. I was about to over contextualize the crap out of the question and not be able to not juice it. Why?
Yes. Per our recent reading. Last words. I think it's because I largely feel like it's assumptive in a lot of ways. And let's pretend like it's a good assumption, because we can just 96% of them are bad assumptions and they don't belong to me anyway. So they're not relevant. So it's really not a great cold outreach. I don't think it's just, scorched earth. So let's say there's the 5% that are good. I don't know. I just don't like being told what to do.
Well, okay,
I think it's
good.
just like, hey, you need this. Like
that is fundamentally what I was going to be asking the question about, right? Because I have this opinion, right? There's a bunch of debate on LinkedIn right now about permissive based openers. Hey, can I take a couple of seconds and tell you why I called? And just non-permissive openers. Hey, here's why I'm calling, kind of thing.
Okay.
And the difference is, one you ask for consent and the other one you don't, right? So one you're assuming and the other one you're not. And I believe that most people don't want someone they don't know making assumptions about them, right? Including the idea that because you picked up the phone, this is a good time to have a conversation. And I saw a guy who's another sales nerd, and I respect a lot of what this guy talks about. He doesn't like doing a permissive based opener because in his opinion, and I call this mental gymnastics of salespeople, right? The things you tell yourself so that way you can feel good about it is because you answer the phone, you have permission to do your thing, right? That they're giving you permission to do these things because they answer the phone. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can see the mental gymnastics that go with that until I want the option and you don't give me the option.
Correct.
Right. And then the minute I'm expecting an option and I feel like that option is being taken away from me as an adult human being, I am done with you, like completely done. Right. And so, everyone talks about sell like a doctor and everything. And it's like, well, doctors diagnose before they prescribe any treatment. Right. And lots of doctors get told, no, it's called a second opinion. And they just don't hear about it because they're a lot of times too tone deaf to like create that space of like, hey, is this something you want to do? They're like, well, let's just get you up on the table and we'll cut you open and do some surgery. And you're going to have like 8 weeks of healing time. They're going to say, oh, okay. And then they're going to leave. And then someone's gonna be like, hey, we should go talk to a different doctor, maybe a chiropractor or someone else like this. Right. Like it happens all the time. And people don't talk about it because it's just like this great thing on social media of like, just sell like a doctor and diagnose and everything's going to be okay. Everyone is acknowledging that person's authority in that room because they are a doctor, and our whole culture is around like looking up to these people. You can't just walk into a room and assume that same kind of authority and expect to get away with it because it doesn't work. Like it just doesn't. Yeah, that's my thinking on it. And here's the other thing, right? Pattern interrupts. Pattern interrupts are the greatest way to start conversations because it's about shaking up the patterns. That way you get to be seen as a human. So if salespeople are known for being assumptive and pushy and high pressure and everything else like this, what better way to upset the pattern and be seen not as a salesperson than to use a permissive based opener and not an assumptive owner that every other salesperson that they have ever come in contact with uses. So you get consent and it's a pattern interrupt. Why would you not do it is really my question.
And I was going to say, I think that's why humor works so well, because it's such a great pattern interrupt.
Such a great pattern interrupt.
When they lead with something funny, I'm open. I literally will almost listen to anything you have to say now for the next 5 seconds.
Now, this is so good because I got into a fight on social yesterday with a guy who, so this guy says that he's a jiu-jitsu person, and he messaged someone else who talks about jiu-jitsu on their profile and says, "Are you a spazzy white belt?" Right? And okay, so apparently spazzy is an ableist term now, which I was not super aware of. It is a very common word inside of like jiu-jitsu and martial arts training specifically. And what it means is that you're not breathing, you're not really aware and stuff like that, and you're going to hurt somebody. So this guy sends this message to this other guy. And the guy's response was the only response that you should get from someone who trains. Come find out. Right? And now this guy goes on Facebook and makes a big post around the idea of, well, I don't really think that, because of the way that he responded to the question, he's actually dequalified as a client because we don't take big egos, right? Was like essentially the focus of this post. And I'm like, wait a minute. You could have shown up and called his kids ugly for like all this thing, right? So you used a bad pattern interrupt. You tied it to emotions that you're not capable of dealing with, apparently, because you could have talked about anything else around that guy's jiu-jitsu journey. Hey, where do you train? What kind of gis do you wear? How long have you been at it? Have you trained any other arts before this thing? What's the hardest part of jiu-jitsu? Of all the lanes you could have picked from figuring out this person trains martial arts and I'm going to talk about this to start a relationship, the one you have to do is pick at it. Right. Like, and then you're going to get mad that because here's the thing, this is all over DM. So he doesn't even know that the response was fraught with like all this like threatening behavior because I'm a pacifist. But if you challenge me about my training, please come. Like, because we can train and I'm not going to hurt you. Right. Because I can show you the qualities of this training without actually hurting anybody. So you should come find out. And if you're scared to find out, you don't train, in which case you shouldn't be using that as an opener because it's tied to emotions and status and stakes that you're not capable of dealing with yet. And so
Right.
I commented on that, and then I made a post about it, and the guy came over onto mine and was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you didn't tag me." Well, why would I tag you? You're not teaching anything. You're putting forward one anecdote and you're setting people up for failure because they're going to go out and they're going to try something similar. It's going to piss people off. They're not going to be able to deal with the emotions about it because you were teaching people how to do terrible pattern interrupts. Oh, that was yesterday.
Yeah, anecdotes are like anything else. If they're not done with the intention to open up a conversation, then they're just garbage. They can be misperceived, and there's just too much. And now I have to know. I have to know, Michael.
I have to know as well. Like I was like, we can't end until Mike tells us the answer to this thing because he couldn't turn it up.
Michael, take us out, man. Take us out. Why was the amplifier yourself, and why did you get fired? All right, we're waiting here.
We're waiting.
Hopefully it's not as long as Slack. He let us hang a little bit on Slack on one of them. Oh, he didn't achieve sufficient volume.
Well done. Well done.
Boom. And that, my friends, is called a Tuesday. That is called a Tuesday. So
you know what? We can make that joke a smidge better because we could say he didn't achieve sufficient volume and couldn't get feedback. There we go.
Good.
Sorry, Mike, I ruined your joke by trying to make it better.
I was just going to say good job. I mean, this guy, it can always be better. It can always be better.
Yes. I don't know, right, Gabe? What's kind of not frustrating to me, but this thing that I see a lot of people do is they kind of appropriate like martial arts stuff for their sales training stuff, and they'll call it sales jujitsu or sales aikido and stuff like that. And it's like, this is going to sound snobby, but if you don't train, you don't actually know what makes these arts different, and you're just doing it from like a marketing perspective, and you're pissing off everybody who does train and knows what these things are, right? So you're not really building rapport with an audience that you're trying to build rapport with. You're taking a shortcut, and it's not great for everybody.
Exactly. And I'll just drop, because I got to go, so I'll just say this on the way out the door too, is I don't like people in their headlines or their actual name section of LinkedIn calling themselves any sort of title that they haven't earned as like a degree, or like yours is a play on words, right? So yours doesn't qualify. I mean, I'm trying to think of one. But there's a lot of people who call themselves like the great guru of X. They just have titled themselves as that. So like when I saw Dr. Sales, I'm like, that falls in that category for me of, you're not a doctor. Don't.
Yeah, you would need to be, like the furthest down the list you could be is like a chiropractor who decided to like make a name for themselves. And then I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like that's a great kind of backstory and everything. But anybody who shows up and they're like, well, I teach people how to diagnose problems, so therefore I'm going to be the sales doctor. No, man, come on. That's too long of a bridge. No one's going with you.
It is. Well, my pediatrician, when I was between like 8 and 14, was also a guitar player that played downtown on the weekends. And he was the Doc of Rock.
The Doc of Rock. Right. And that's so remarkably, beautifully cheesy. Like, that's fantastic. But yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. I call myself the king of LinkedIn Live. See, that, and you know that what works.
No, Gabe, I saw it. I cringed. I couldn't do it.
Really?
Yes. No, you're not the king of anything. Like, I just know. But I can't stand that sort of stuff in general across the board. So
what I hate is whenever
I love Gabe though.
I love Gabe as well. I really hate this in like sales roles, when they're like, what are we going to call our salesperson? Just call them a salesperson. Just teach them to like act with intention and to give consent to people and, and to look for those things. Because like you can take the used car salesman off the car lot, take him out of the jacket, you can take the pomade out of his hair, right? And then put him into into an AE role. He's still going to have those tendencies and those habits and those things that he's done. And he's going to be like, okay, so what's it going to take to get you in the car? I mean, marketing account today, right? Like it's just easy. No,
I like.
I am not. Or I'm sorry, no, Brian. I am not the king of anything.
I actually like Gabe's Stream Tornado. I like Stream Tornado because that's
I love Stream Tornado.
Yeah, that's a descriptor.
Fantastic. Yeah,
that to me that's something different than a title.
So, agreed. Yeah, like. Cool. I think if you're trying to get like dub yourself as royalty, like I think that that's the thing, right? So I don't like. I was gonna two posts I was gonna post last week on LinkedIn. I decided not to post, right? And I talked about this in the Slack community because I was like, these are potentially too hot, and also I just don't feel like fighting with people like on there, right? And so one of them was about these sales leaders who were like, well, I take cold calls. And it's like, are you really like taking cold calls, or are you sitting back so that way you can critique someone who's new, so that way you feel good about yourself? Because like the question is not, are you taking cold calls? Have you actually bought something off of a cold call? Has the cold call to you actually advanced the deal inside of your organization? Because if not, you're not any better than a tire kicker. Well, just send me some information, send me a proposal, we'll take a look at it.
Right.
That in the quality with which you are picking something apart versus listening to understand is different qualities, and they're not really kind of thinking that thing through when they're, bragging about taking cold calls and then shutting everybody down.
Yeah, exactly. I like the phrase that Don Miller uses: "Don't be cute and clever, be concise." Like if you want to be cute and clever, wait till you get to know them at least a little bit, then be cute and clever, because then they're getting to know your personality. But just be concise. Just tell me what I need to know. Let's start talking. Let's do a pattern interrupt. Let's do something. Let's get in there, and then great. But let's not leave any room for someone like me who even loves Gabe and would be like, the king of LinkedIn Live. Should I talk to him? Don't even bring that to the table. Just Gabe. Gabe's the man. Let's do this.
Yeah. Like there was a guy who made a post talking about sales, and he made a bad martial arts metaphor, and that person has lost status in my opinion now, right? Not for what he does, but right, it just looks like he's reaching badly. It's like, this isn't your lane, and this person has a lane filled with metaphors and mindset things and different things to talk about. Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to be like, if you don't train, you shouldn't talk about this thing. But like, that is kind of where I'm going.
Well,
if you don't train, you don't.
It's not miles. It's just inches. But if you do that enough times, it adds up. You're like, no.
Oh, I love that.
That's a no for me, dog.
If you confuse, you lose.
That's right.
If you lose, you confuse.
If you confuse, you lose. That's right. That's another one of his great ones. Like,
awesome. So. That's Mike Simmons, everybody. He was on the show last Friday. He's going to be back on again next time, and we are going to talk about story next time, because we didn't get into that at all last time.
We are for sure. And go back and watch the replay if you didn't catch it. It's up on our channel. So
go watch all the likes and rights. And if you're drinking this AM, because it's Tuesday.
Hey, if you're in the UK, get at it. It's time.
Absolutely. John, Dylan, if you guys are watching, hop on in there, man.
That's right. You're welcome.
All right, man. So we got to go. Thanks to Mike for hanging out. It is really early there. Brian, hope your due diligence is going well. I hope you have a good day. Gabe, I like Stream Tornado as more than I like the king of LinkedIn Live, if I'm being really honest about it, as well. Let's see, Mike Tao, Mr. Regular, man, good stuff today. That Randy Jackson quote thing got me. I almost lost it mid-sentence. But like
Michael Ryan,
that's how I respond to people now. Michael Ryan, exactly. Yes, with the dad jokes.
Thanks for the dad jokes, bringing it hard. That's
for sure.
Bringing it in hot. So I appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, good to see you. We'll be back tomorrow. And,
man, I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, thanks. And everything's copacetic, so we're good to go.
Good.
All right. See everybody tomorrow. See you, Bill.
See everybody tomorrow. Cheers, Bill.